This morning, President-elect Joe Biden beginning to build out his cabinet.
But it still faces the trauma of the Chinese economy getting bigger than the American economy.
It, along with 14 other Asian Pacific countries, signing on to join the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership.
I think this new trade bloc will be very advantageous to China and the other Asian countries. The fundamental issue from an American perspective that Americans have to come to grips with is that China's population is 4 times larger than America's, and that in the 21st century knowledge economy, China's economy and geopolitical influence is going to correspond to that difference. So China's economy is going to get bigger relative to America's. President Trump's reaction was to try to prevent China's economy getting bigger. But China has 1.4 billion people. America has 329 million people. Short of destroying the global economy, there's not much America can do to prevent China economy getting bigger and bigger. Lawrence Summers, who was a key figure in the Clinton administration and the Obama administration, has pinpointed the problem. He said, quote, "Could the United States imagine a global economic system in 2050 where the U.S. economy was half the size of the world's largest economy? Could an American political leader acknowledge that reality in a way that permitted negotiations about what such a world should look like," close quotes. So that is the fundamental problem. The Biden administration will be a more experienced and more expert administration, but it still faces the trauma of the Chinese economy getting bigger than the American economy. And it will take 2 or 3 generations for Americans to get used to the ramifications of the Chinese economy being larger than the American economy. At the end of the Second World War, America had 40% of the global economy, and it had the most gold. So it said to the winning countries, we're just going to issue US dollars, and we'll only issue 35 US dollars for every ounce of gold we have. So it had the ability just to print money. That created, along with other things, a tremendous growth in the American economy. Now, a lot of other countries are developing, and the American economy is going from 40% to 20%. It's shrinking. So what we were going to do is have something called TPP, and we would make rules that would have excluded China. But America didn't agree to that. And so now there's a trade group that is based on Asian values. And the Asian market is where the economic growth is in the world. So I think this new trade bloc will be very advantageous to China and the other Asian countries. From my point of view, China has the most successful government that it's had in thousands of years. If you didn't have a 5-year plan, what would you have? Everybody talking about 100 different things? In the United States, they have everybody talking about 100 different things. So I'm in favor of planning for a socialist market economy, and don't think China would do as well if there was no planning. China has grown by a lot of investment capital from abroad and from within China. It's reached a stage where the per capita income is about $10,000 US for over 1.4 billion people. Now, the new plan is emphasizing a continuation of that, but also promoting innovation. An innovation economy is capable of explosive growth. The digital economy, the digitalization of currency. I think that, for example, do you use your phone to pay for things? Do you have a credit card? In the West, we still use cash and credit cards, but you've got 1 billion people in China who do all their transactions with their phone. That is the digital economy. And for the developing world that don't have the highly developed financial systems, the digital economy using cell phones is going to create a huge leap in people's well-being and standards of living. So it's hard for people in the West to understand how much and how fast the knowledge economy is changing countries like China. We always assumed that you would have to copy us, and we're going to have to copy you. Hopefully, China, with its long-term planning, will adopt a wider global economic management goals. In other words, the burden on the Chinese government is not just to plan for sustaining China's internal domestic growth. It now has to also ensure that its trading partners economies grow sufficiently so that the world doesn't have a global financial crisis. So it's a much bigger burden on the Chinese government, but it's the price of success. If you become a very successful person, it affects your relationship with your friends. People that were superior to you don't like the fact that you're superior to them, and it's an adjustment process that people make both as individuals and as countries.